The Boss Hole Chronicles are brought to you by Real Good Ventures, a talent optimization firm helping organizations diagnose their most critical people and execution issues with world-class analytics. Make sure to check out all the resources in the show notes and be sure to follow us and share your feedback. Enjoy today's episode. Well, welcome back, everybody out there in the Boss Hole Transformation Nation. This is your host, John Broer. And I did say host. Normally, my co-host, Sarah Best, the remarkable Sarah Best, is here, but Sarah is out on assignment. And I'm excited because this subject matter expert episode, and I should say experts, you first met them on the Boss Hole Chronicles almost 2 years ago. I find it hard to believe that we're coming up on a 2-year anniversary when we had a chance to meet Krista and Phil Franks, who are with Owl & Key, a remarkable consulting firm based here in Central Ohio that gave us, and you learned about this back in April of 2021, strategic planning for life. So before I give a little bit of background, Krista and Phil, so good to see you again.
Likewise.
So good to see you. Thank you for having us.
You bet. And I know we have a lot to catch up on because when we first spoke a couple of years ago, strategic planning for life wasn't brand new, but it was really beginning to take shape. I mean, this is a groundbreaking model for people to really take hold of their lives, every aspect of their lives. And I think a great way to start is to give our listeners a refresh of what strategic planning for life is. But what I'd love for you to share with them is what has happened in the last 2 years and how your clients, dare I say, disciples, really have understood. Well, no, I mean, it is a life transforming model. Let us know what SPFL is. Remind our listeners what it offers.
Maybe I'll give a little background first about Owl & Key. So we're a lifestyle design and transformation company. Mm-hmm. We help people and businesses live better. I mean, to put it very simply,
right.
And that live better comes from a flagship framework that we call strategic planning for life today, amongst other things that we do with organizations. But this being our most popular and biggest one that we deploy, strategic planning for life is really an integrative, holistic lifestyle design tool. And when we say lifestyle design, what we mean is, and I'll break it down per the framework, it's getting to know yourself, mm-hmm. getting to know yourself from a deep sense of self-awareness, radical self-inquiry, we like to call it, mixed with an integrative practice of taking that wisdom and applying it to your everyday life. And I think the transformational model, we'll take that compliment, John. Thank you for the revolutionary model that you shared with us. But we do think in the sense of it being applied to the corporate setting is what makes that stand out and have the impact it's been having over the last few years since we've spoken. In the days of old, and we shared this a little bit off camera, it was not really something that you brought in your personal life. Your personal life was not something that you brought into the workforce and your everyday job. You checked it at the door, mm-hmm. right? You managed your stuff. You came and you did your KPIs. You did these things. And think about all the things that have happened just most recently in the last 2 years, where people were thrust into their homes and the pandemic and all these new future of work things that are happening. And I think now what's happened is that it's been an accelerant for organizations to find ways to keep people well.
Right.
And what this framework does, we believe, and what we've seen, is it allows people to be supported from end to end in their life, not just as a strategic piece in the corporate puzzle where you're maybe doing hard skills or tactical skills, but actually making them well in every area of their life. Because we believe that if you're well in every area, and it starts by being well inside, being well as a human, you then can be well as a leader, as an employee, as a team member, as a parent, as a friend, whatever other roles you play. And so when we say holistic, integrative framework, that's what we mean. We really want people to get to know themselves first, and the organization that we work with to empower people to do that for themselves, to be the best they can be in every aspect of their life.
And it's a sustainable model. That's the thing. I mean, it's because it is them. It is hardwired into how they decide to live their lives. And let's back up for 1 second, because I want to remind everybody in the show notes, the link to Strategic Planning for Life, Owl & Key's website. Go to the website because you guys have done an amazing job of telling your story. And I remember, Krista, when we first met, and you tell it on the video, It's a beautiful story, but you made some very intentional decisions to break from one thing and begin something new, which was I would say the origin of strategic planning for life. Can you give us just another snapshot of that moment, of that turn, if you will?
Yeah, we both had two different turns. Mine was about 10 years ago, and I was working in an agency that work hard, play hard lifestyle, working very long hours, not really knowing a whole lot about myself, which I came to realize as I was burnt out. I was stressed. I was looking for my leaders to tell me why I was doing what I was doing and to give me meaning and purpose and why I was working the way that I was working and what the vision was.
Right.
And soon realized in a conversation with the CEO at the time, I sat down one day and just said, why are we working the way that we're working? Why are we working these hours? And he said, well, I'm doing it to make a lot of money. I don't know why you're doing it. And something in that just made me go, well, I'm not going to make a lot of money out of this. Like, I don't know.
Right.
This doesn't make any sense to me. And so that kind of started me on a trajectory of, wow, like my relationships are suffering, my energy is suffering, my health. I'm kind of looking into the future, looking down the road and saying, if I don't make a change, I'm going to experience some very negative effects in my life because of the work environment that I'm in.
Right.
And so from that point, I made the leap to very intentionally go out and start the foundations of this work, which are the awareness pieces. So really understanding who you are, what you value, and what you truly want in life. Not what, everyone else tells you should want or what you should value or what the company values, but like, what do I value? What do I value as a person?
Right.
And then started aligning my life and the work that I do with those things instead of seeking that outside of myself.
Right.
I really defined that for myself and then found the opportunities that aligned with those things. And then Phil kind of had his transition several years after as we were entering into parenthood and starting a business.
The second piece of that, John, just briefly, was Krista had created the first version of this and had started doing this in SMBs around our city and our region. And we were getting some interesting feedback. And what you said earlier, I completely agree with. We both agree with. It's just a natural state of being.
Right.
Like we all want this space to be able to investigate ourselves. It's not always easy. It's not always even fun to do. But through that investigation and through getting to know yourself, you uncover so many things about your life that maybe are in alignment or out of alignment. And that's where the gold really is. And mine came from a similar journey, partner in organization, agency, same agency that Krista came from, realized that we were about to have a child in 8 months and that I was going to be an absentee father. Right. And that I was going to not be around for meals, or that I was going to maybe see them for a few hours a week for their work schedule and how I was traveling. And I think these are the moments that everybody gets hit with. Everybody gets hit with these moments in their lives where you can assume that circumstance and say, well, like, I'm just going to deal with this and find the outcome that maybe I can rationalize is okay. Or you can make radical changes and you can change the outcome to be more of what you want and what you desire. And sometimes that leap, as we experienced, is a cliff jump. I mean, it's a leap off of what you thought you knew to begin something brand new, which is what we did. I mean, we both had, stable jobs. I was an equity partner in this organization. We were very comfortable in life, but the alignment with what was happening, both with our health, the work we were doing, and the time and energy we were spending outside of our nucleus as a family, really was not harmonizing with the work we were doing. And that's when we decided to make a complete shift and begin the journey of building from ground zero together. On the day that Orrin was born, we became parents and entrepreneurs, co-founders in Allen Key, which is a really funny thing to look back at now, almost 5.5 years ago.
But John, I think the other big part here is like we left our careers to build Allen Key, but because we knew this thing had value, it added something to life, but we don't believe that everyone needs to leave their career to have their best, whole life. And so what our passion is can we support people where they are and partner with businesses to help them support their employees in their holistic well-being so that it's a really amazing symbiotic relationship and partnership between the company and the employee. And that partnership is where everyone really thrives, and it can become so much more full and fulfilling for everyone involved with this level of awareness and this level of intention and this level of collaborative vision.
Well, and that's what made me so interested in revisiting the work that the two of you do now, because there are no accidents. I mean, I know that when I think back 2 years ago when strategic planning for life was really beginning to hit its stride and the pandemic had taken place, you know, if nothing else, we know that the pandemic revealed some major issues in organizations. And part of that is just the astronomical levels of disengagement, of burnout. And I want to get to that in just a second, because I think that burnout is what created this one of the opportunities you have with a major client and how you are helping them where they are, Krista, to your point. But at Real Good Ventures, I mean, our mission is to help people find meaning and fulfillment in their work. I think that's exactly what you want to do at Owl and Key. We go in and we can measure every aspect of the human experience in an organization. Self-awareness, we can measure engagement, performance, strategic alignment, or psychological safety. However, once we've measured it and diagnosed it, the question is, well, now what?
What do you do with it?
That's exactly right. And I think you guys really have it. I mean, I think the strategic planning for life is something where you can say, okay, you have this realization. You may realize that, gosh, I am unfulfilled in this kind of work, but I would like to do this kind of work, maybe at the same company, but how do I actually do that? And that's where it just hits me that strategic planning for life becomes that very personal tool that people can begin to use. Let's now fast forward to, 2023 or the latter part of 2022. And Phil, you were sharing with me how you are seeing this groundswell of need of, and I'm not going to say wellness, because I think that's something that's a whole nother area. What I like to think about well-being, this groundswell of need around well-being, and specifically for some of your clients, and they're coming to you saying, we need help. We believe that strategic planning for life can help. Take us into that part of the story.
Well, I think it doesn't always come as clearly as that. I think that
I wish it would, but go ahead. Yeah.
I wish it would.
All right.
But, I think
change is hard, John.
What we end up hearing a lot of is we know that it's, there's a lack of communication, or my people can't set priorities, or they need help with time management, or they need help with burnout. We start to hear some of these are the type, or leadership development. We start to hear these types of words being thrown around. Mm-hmm. And what we are able to offer is we have this system that is structured in a way that can facilitate a lot of these needs all at once in a group effort, right? Mm-hmm. We bring people together within the same company, and especially with some of these global companies that, they're spread out all over the place. We're able to bring them together under a class model, right? And be able to take them through this program and give them all opportunities to identify the areas where they really need to do the work for themselves, and where they can start to become a little more self-led in taking some of these awarenesses that the company has at the large scale and starting to implement them for themselves at a very minor, personal level, and being able to work with their leaders. So we get that data, but then we just kind of bring them into the framework, and we start to measure on different outcomes from the work. Like, how are we increasing the quality of the relationship between the employee and the company? We're seeing in 9 weeks, we're seeing like a 14% increase. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I love the cohort. These are classes. These are cohorts. Mm-hmm. So share with our listeners, if I'm in a cohort, of what that is like and why it is so powerful. Oh, I agree. I totally agree with you, but why that is so powerful.
Oh, I think it depends on, we have multiple different ways in which people come into the cohort. So if it's a team of people, like if it's the leader and their team,
okay,
it's so powerful because they get to know each other on this very personal level. And let's say that an account manager, I'm just using that word, I don't know why that word's coming up, but account manager and a manager at some level is saying, I'm feeling really stuck in my growth, and I'm feeling stuck because of these things, but I realize that because of my values and my intentions, I'd really like to increase this part of my job. And this is where I'm actually very passionate, but I don't have the opportunities to do that right now. The leader in that setting gets to be able to hear what that person's saying, and they are able to connect on that and find a solution for that. But the same is true if they share something personal, something's going on, and it allows them to see each other as humans versus just the coworkers. And in that setting, they are able to connect a little bit more deeply and collaborate on what's next. Now, if it's a group of, let's say, directors across the country who are coming in, one of the most powerful things that they say is, I know I'm not alone. I know that the things I'm experiencing, not just on a professional level, but also on a personal level, I'm not alone. And then all of a sudden they start sharing, which becomes very, very healing to be able to share and express what's going on, to hold space for each other, and then to collaborate and ideate together on what might be happening. And these are people that they would never be able to connect with. And then what we have happen in those group cohorts is that maybe somebody says, this is something in my life that I'm so passionate about that I want to do before the end of my life. Right. And then it just always so happens that once they voice that thing that I'll give an example. Someone said, in my life, I really want to start this housing project for low-income families. And I want to be able to do that with my husband. And we've already started in real estate, but I'd really like to, expand that at some point in my life. And someone inevitably then on the call jumps in and says, I don't know if you know this, but our company has this opportunity to work with low-income families in this way, and you can do it through the company. But that connection may have never happened if that cohort hadn't been talking about these big life visions together.
I think there's two things that I want to also voice about kind of the structure, as you asked, John. Over the years of doing this, one of the things that we've learned, and one of the things I also think makes this a little bit different and maybe provides much more impact and transformation than others, is that what we found actually creates change is two things. One is immersion. So change does not happen unless you're immersed. So gone are the days of the inspirational workshops or the sprinkling of good words or speakers that come through. Those things are great. Like, I'm not saying we don't do those things. What I'm saying is if you're a leader or an organization actually looking for sustainable change, you have to go deep. Like, you have to immerse yourself. And so our program is actually a 9-week program that is very engaging throughout every week of those 9 weeks with these cohorts of people. So they're deeply engaged in themselves and the work and the integration, these changes, and this cohort, which is the second piece. So a lot of the models that are at work today in well-being, and specifically in corporate or business, is a push out from the organization to the person to say, hey, you have a budget to do this, or hey, there's something for you to do that's now available. Go watch some videos on Linda. Or hey, like, if you want to go to this conference, we'll sponsor you to go to this conference and listen to these inspirational folks talk. But there's no participation back. It's all on the employee. It's all on them. And so for us, this idea of community, where the organization is believing that by doing this for them, I'm participating with them in this, that forming that community bond, may it be a class of 10 or 25 per class, like that, there's that engagement and that intimacy of community. And so by going deep with other people and experiencing these changes together, that's when change can be felt. That's when things are felt. And we do not change from thought, we change from feeling. And so when you feel something in those experiences as a class, you begin to change. And that's when we get testimonials that say this changed my life, or this changed completely the way I make decisions, or how I approach my work every day, or my relationship with my husband or my kids. Like, that's the kinds of things that we're feeling because of that immersion and that depth. And I will say the second thing that comes to mind from this too, John, is, as a company, if you're listening to this and it's starting to perk your interest, or maybe you have some doubts on the other side, I'd ask to really look at what a company is, right? If we look at the old models of how this worked between corporation or company and employee, it was like you were a cog, like you were just a piece to fit into my puzzle, and you were going to align yourself with the vision of this organization so that we could, appease shareholders or make a profit and a great EBITDA at the end of the day, right? And maybe you get some things from that. But a company is now different, because a company, in my opinion, and I think our shared opinion, is a commodity. Like, you can go get a job anywhere with your skills, and people are not tolerating that kind of relationship anymore. And so it's on a company to come to the table and provide these types of incentives and show that they care as a partner, not only in the work that they're doing, but that they care about how that puzzle piece actually fits for the human. The human has to come in and click into place and feel good about that. Whereas before it could have been kind of like a forced wiggle to get you into that thing. It doesn't exist like that anymore. And the companies don't have opportunities to do that. It's a non-negotiable now to do these types of things. And so the company is a relationship amongst many people. And if you were to go into a relationship and have someone say, hey, do this every day, do that every day, I'm going to talk to you about this, tell you your worth and do this, but that person never asked about your personal life or how you were feeling or what was going on in your world or how your kids were doing, how do you think that relationship would go? It would be really demonstrative, right? It would be not a great relationship, and nobody would tolerate that in a one-to-one personal intimate setting. But unfortunately, some of us still tolerate that in a company setting. And I think for a relationship to be forged, like between company and individual, these types of conversations, these types of experiences have to begin to happen for sustainable organization to fuse. And when the goal, as Krista mentioned earlier, the goal is when an organizational, mission and values and vision fuse with the individual's mission, value, and vision, and they find a way to co-elevate, to work together, because they know now what's going on each side, and they can pull and push together like you would in a good relationship. That's when things soar. And that's what we've seen the big changes come from corporations that really embrace that.
And amen to that. And the thing that gets me is for those that feel that the pandemic was just sort of and I'm using that as an example, was just an inconvenience. We're all going to go back to the way things were. That's a fallacy. You're absolutely right. People are now realizing that I can work in a place that does offer community, that is not toxic. I mean, you're always going to run into difficulties and conflict, but we have ways of being able to deal with that. The fact of the matter is, it is an employee's choice to be able to say, I want to work in a place where I can find that fulfillment, and it does value what I offer as a human. And these are terms that are not part of the old model. The old command and control is giving way to trust and autonomy, and that is very difficult for a lot of company leaders and business owners to adopt. But this is one of the cool things, is that you are seeing corporations, your clients, that are saying, we get it. We absolutely get what you're doing with strategic planning for life. And we will be right back.
With employee disengagement at its highest level in 9 years, your company can't afford to miss the mark when it comes to optimizing your hiring, management, and team performance practices. At its lowest level, employee turnover costs you $11,000 per person. And those are dollars you can easily save with the right set of people analytics. Real Good Ventures is a talent optimization consultancy specializing in world-class analytics specific to your people and the critical role they play within your organization. Gain confidence in your hiring practices. Keep the boss holes from driving your talent away. Design your teams for flawless execution and create a culture that offers meaning and fulfillment. Real Good Ventures has a family of validated diagnostic tools specific to the human aspect of business, because we know that all business issues are people issues. Visit us today at www.realgoodventures.com and bring meaning and fulfillment back into your workplace.
Okay, let's get back to the program. For all of those out there that may be still questioning where they are in that continuum of command and control versus trust and autonomy and creating that community, what are some examples of things that you're seeing right now? Like Krista, you just said a 14% increase in the quality of the relationship. What are you seeing today, and what can other, who are the organizations that are listening in, how could they benefit like right now from what other organizations are recognizing?
Well, I think one of the things that I have empathy for the companies, because as a company, in order for them to have autonomous employees, those employees need to know what their vision, their values, and who they are, what they value most, and what they want. And so what our work does is we kind of prop people up with that information. And we say, this is never something you've been taught to do. We're going to help you learn how to do that, so that then you can actually go partner with the company. And so companies are identifying, this is one of the one thing that you can do is say, is this something that we want to empower and encourage our employees to be self-led, to be creative in their development, to bring us plans and strategies and creativity around their own growth as well as the company growth. And if that's the case, then we need to do work like this. Because the more if you hire smart, great people and you want them to influence your business, you want to give them the tools to take all of their time and use it to the best of their ability to positively influence the company. And people really, truly want to do that. So if somebody is listening and they're kind of on the fold of like, do I want that? Or would I rather have to always delegate and always control and always like hold tight to the way I think it should be? It's an easy yes, no, right? It's like a yes, I would like to be on that side where I really empower and encourage my people. I may not always know how to do that, but these are the types of tools, like strategic planning for life are the types of tools that really give the employees and the team that ability to lean into that growth, to lean into their superpowers and the abilities that they have to influence the company. I think we're also seeing in the essence and honor of the Boss Hole Chronicles and the podcast we're on, we're also seeing that one of the big things that companies have trouble with is their management layer. And managers, unfortunately, don't have the tools to know, how do I lead and coach someone? How do they know the traditional ways of doing it. Like I need to have the direction. I need to tell people what to do. And I need to have that sense of control. But if there's a desire to empower leaders to manage and coach the whole employee, then things like this, like strategic planning for life, can help them to do that, right? Can help them to understand, how do I lead through my values, values, not the company values, through my values? How can I make this experience more holistic and more human so that I can connect more deeply with the people that I lead and empower and encourage them to be their best selves at work? And right now, especially with the landscape that we're in, with layoffs and the economic structures and everything at play, the humanity is wildly important, right?
Oh, yeah.
This work is so much more important now. These types of programs and the work that we're all doing, I think, like Phil used the language before, it used to be a nice to have, and now it's a must.
A
now
must
it's
have,
a
for sure.
Right. Because in these hard times, this becomes the most important. So I think the biggest thing that companies listening that they can do is say, in these hard times, right now, am I the leader who will double down on employee wellness, or I'm the leader who will let go of it?
Right.
And I think that is going to be the main difference between the companies who make it through this economic time and thrive ongoing in the next 5-10 years and beyond, and those that are going to really struggle and be challenged because they're not evolving with the needs of the people. And frankly, the creativity of humans is what's going to set companies apart for the future, because robots can't do creativity just yet. So we need the creativity, and the creativity comes from well-being. It comes from humans who have the ability to think in that way. And so I think that's the big question right now for a lot of leaders is, when we're in these tight times, do we want to double down on that well-being, or do we want to let go of it? And if you want to double down, I think you're on the right path.
They would be on the right path. But when you think about strategic planning for life, we're all working from the same playbook. I mean, the beauty of the model is that your story, your intentionality is unique to you. But if we're all sort of on this journey together, we can help understand each other's stories and probably we talk about self-awareness all the time. When we work with a leader or a manager who comes to a sense of self-awareness of, what, this is not what I want to be doing. That's okay. That's absolutely okay. Life is way too short to not be fulfilled and find meaning in what you do. Make that decision now. So as you say, Krista, if they're on the fold, if they're sitting on the fence, it's time to get off the fence. And our business owners, it is time to stop putting the wrong people in those manager and supervisory roles. Quit forcing people into the boss hole zone, and realize that what you're offering at Owl and Key, this is a how to do it. This is a tool that you can put into somebody's hands and help them understand that purpose, but do so in that community. And so I want to get back to it really quick. So ways to be able to access this, for example, I like to be very pragmatic and practical. Teams can go through this, intact teams in an organization. I would imagine organizations can make this available to anybody that wants to opt in and go through a cohort, because they could be from different departments or whatever. What about like is there a public option, like a public offering?
Mm.
Yeah, totally. So the teams option you nailed, John. I mean, we work with teams where we cross-pollinate from, like Krista mentioned, like all over the country, all over the globe. Like people are coming in. It could be specific niches. Like if there's a target demo or a group that needs to be propped up, potentially, maybe it's leaders, maybe it's a subgroup, maybe it's like new parents as an example. Like we'll work with organizations or leaders to go in and tackle these groups inside of organizations where they feel like they may need that lift. So it's really wide open, and we work really creatively with our partner on the inside of the organizations to identify how it's going to make the most sense. But it's all open enrollment. We allow people to come in as they will based on like the interest and the budget of our clients. On the individual side, or on the out of work side, we do have a lot of ways to engage too. So we have our standalone course, which is a very low barrier way to get engaged. So people can go on, have access to the standalone course, and do digital offering, which also includes, like the digital book, the EPUB, and things like that, and also videos and additional resources. We also do high level touch or high touch one-on-one for individuals or couples and partners who want to go through this. And those couples and partners could be, people who are doing business, lifestyle businesses, entrepreneurs, and things like that aren't intimate. They could be just like a team coming to us that wants to do this as a group, as a facilitated duo or trio or quad. And we also do group classes that are not in the focus of work. So it could be, we've done couples classes in the past before, where couples that are married come together, and we have husband and wife and wife come together around a cohort and go through the work together, which is wildly transformational in a marriage, as you can assume.
I'll bet.
Much like it is in an organization. Like I said, it's all, you said it best, John. You said like we're all kind of experiencing the same things because we're all human. And so this idea of like relationships and relating to our significant other, relating to the work that we do, relating to ourselves, like that's all just a relationship. And we think that this is a great way to get really tuned in with those relationships that you have across the board as a human in this experience.
We're also opening up new ways to engage in the work. One of the best parts about the work is that it's the same structure all the time. And it is all founded and grounded and rooted in this book that we have. So by the time this launches, we might have the book up. We're currently working on selling the book individually to let people kind of go through it on their own time. We just know that there's a great need right now out in the world. Let's say, someone got laid off, which we know is happening very commonly right now. And a book is way more practical for them, but they would still like to go through it in their own time. And maybe they want to go through it faster than 9 weeks, and they don't need us to help facilitate that conversation. So we're trying to open up new ways like the book. We're doing speaking engagements regularly, just talking about the concepts of designing a life with intention and what it means to your personal life and your work life. And then we're also starting to develop retreats and experiences where they're a little bit more immersive, maybe a little bit more condensed, right? And really focused in on very specific topics. So we're trying to open up different avenues and make them available to meet people where they are right now.
Right. As a reminder to all of our listeners, there are always tons of resources in the show notes. And so keep an eye out for when the Strategic Planning for Life book gets published. Check out Owl and Key's website and resources, because you'll want to be able to get that. Even if, I would think, even if you go through the cohort, you'll still want that book, just because it's just a great reinforcer of everything you all talk about. One of the things that I've always loved since we first met you guys is you are guiding people. I think of shepherding. You're guiding people, lifestyle guides, right? Which is such a great imagery, because, you're allowing people to show up, at a point where they are and begin their own journey. And all of this sounds very ethereal and theoretic, but it's not. It's very practical. And that's why I want people to really understand the value of strategic planning for life. So what I'd ask the two of you to do, or it could be one or the other, it doesn't really matter. I just want you to speak to listeners out there from a perspective of what they may be thinking or where they may be in their life, and just talk right to them and say, this is for you. Does that make sense?
Totally. This is great. I think we each would have our own audience that we would really resonate with.
Go ahead. Just speak to the audience. Go ahead.
So I would say one of the things that I found, and I'll use myself as an example, because I think Krista and I, as the shepherds, as the guides, like we're practicing this every single day.
Mm-hmm.
In our family dynamic, we call it our nucleus at home with our children, as parents, as partners, in the co-working that we do with and through Alan Key. It's all derived from this process. And it was born through a wild loss of self.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people really can feel that, where you may be in a job you don't like, or in a relationship you don't like, or maybe you don't even know if you don't like it, but you know that something's kind of out of whack. And we all know that feeling. It's maybe kind of like a weird pit in our stomach, or a really tensed back, or, something is showing you that that's not giving you joy and giving you the feedback that you want and the experience that you want in life. And, for me, that story that I shared earlier, when I had that revelation where my career, which I had deeply rooted myself in for nearly 12 years and created a whole structure and identity around, I was this, I am that.
Right.
What am I without this? Will I ever be able to replace this income? All the things that were very relevant to my story, that were very scary and very hard to approach. This work allowed me to approach it in a way that I could see clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the steps that I needed to take, and how change could happen, and how I could do things not 2 years or 3 years from now, but tomorrow, that would promote that change in the direction of the change that I wanted to go. And so I'd say, for anybody that has that feeling where they're on the precipice of change, to do work like this, we think we have a really good modality that gives people a chance to see clearly. There are many out there. I'm not going to proclaim that we're the best or the only. There are many modalities, us being one of them. But this is a way for you to find that clarity to the answers that you most desire. And most of us have that question of what's next, or what for. And I found that going through this myself. And many other people now have too. As you mentioned on the website, we have many testimonials from folks who are sharing their own pivotal transformations in work, in relationships, in purpose, parenthood, whatever it might be. We get a lot of those, and that's our lifeblood, is helping people get through that change from A to B.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would add to that, like, if you're a person who's feeling like you feel this desire to have a plan for what's next, or if you feel stuck in a certain stage or season, or if there's something that like you're deeply desiring that you want to do, a lot of times we'll have leaders coming through this work, and they might have this vision for something that they want to do, and it's impactful. It's impactful to them and their lives and the company, and frankly, generations of people. When we're in awe of, honestly, we're in awe of what people are trying to do.
Right.
And they may feel like that it's not possible. If you feel like it's not possible to grow in that leadership, or to create that department, or to take that idea to the top leadership and say, hey, I think we should be doing this here. It is possible. Like, this is the time that leaning into that and really understanding why you want to do something, and then putting into practice, like, what does that actually look like for me in my life, or for the listener, what it looks like for you in your life, and how to actually then start implementing it. That's what, I think if you feel that desire, or you feel that stuckness, and you want to kind of move into that next stage or that next phase, or bring that thing to life, that's what we're feeling and we're seeing the most of. And we're very excited to see the ripple effect of the work. And so I think there's another piece. If you're feeling like this work might be selfish to spend this time on yourself, I cannot tell you how important it is to do this work, because when you know yourself well, and you're taking care of yourself, and you're doing the work that you're passionate about, and that you feel makes an impact in the world, it is so meaningful. You make such a difference in people's lives. You change the face of a company, and frankly, you change generations of lives, whether it's your kids or your community or your partner or the team you lead. It's really humbling for us to see the people going through this work and the changes that they're making, not just for themselves, just by doing the work on themselves. They're making tremendous impacts for other people.
Oh yeah. You know what? I think I think what I just to boil it down or distill it down, Krista, it's okay to be selfish in this case, to really understand who you are and to allow, whether it's your God-given talents, you are equipped to do some really remarkable things in this world. And as we started out, if you have been all these layers of different things that what the world has laid on top of you, to break free from that, this is a way to do it. And Krista, you said it. It doesn't mean quitting your job. This isn't about, I'm breaking out and I'm going to become an entrepreneur and start something new. Not at all. This is about embracing it and coming to a self-awareness of who you are and really, really embracing that part of it and letting those natural traits, those natural gifts really come forward. And if it's where you are right now, fantastic. If it creates an opportunity to move in a different direction, amen. Why not? Why not? There's a lot of opportunity out there. Go ahead.
There is. And I have a really fun story from our client at Mattel. We have this fantastic partner. One of the things that Phil and I love most about the work we get to do with businesses is that we love the leaders we get to work with. I mean, the people who partner with us to do this work, I can't wait. I'm sure you have similar client relationships. Like, I can't wait to get on the call with them. We build these fantastic partnerships and it's super collaborative and we know them so well. And Liz Ferentz, she's been on our podcast. She's talked about the work that we're doing with Mattel, and her CPO, Amy, in 2021, said, they were at that point where they said, we have this engagement data. We need to figure out a solution. Right. And so Liz, her superpower is taking an idea and turning it into reality. And quite frankly, she does this better than anybody I've ever met. And she took this whole idea, pitched it to her CPO, Amy, and said, I want to develop basically a life coaching program within Mattel. And then we got connected and together we partnered up to deploy this. So this one person Liz wanted to create something because she wanted that for her growth and she saw the need. And so as she went and implemented this, now she's impacted hundreds of people's lives just by pitching the idea of this department and getting it started. And what's been super fun is that we've co-created together. So we've put our program in place because we could get it up and running real quickly and support hundreds of people every year. Right. And we can jump in and go. But while we were jumping in and going and getting the whole group model started, she then was creating an entire program around burnout because they had specific data around burnout that they wanted to address. And so then she started topically creating. And so we've developed this amazing partnership that from one person, Liz, wanting to make an impact, now a year later, she has transformed many, 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 many lives. Right. Just by following her truth and her own awareness. And I think that kind of story is super compelling. And I tell her every single time I get to talk with her how impressive she is. And I applaud her for doing that because she's really made a difference for a lot of people. And she was on the Unlocked podcast. That's your podcast, Unlocked. Yeah.
Also an SPFL grad.
And she's an SPFL grad. Yeah.
Nice.
She went through it first.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna take the link for that. I'm gonna drop it in the show notes. So to our listeners, go check out Owl and Keys podcast, Unlocked. Check out the podcast. I want to encourage everybody because I'm excited for what the two of you are doing. I'm just so glad that we had that connection a couple of years ago. We'll continue with that because I have no doubt that we have an opportunity to do some great things together. But Owl and Key, Krista and Phil, not to forget about Oren and Paxton. They're part of the team as well. But just thanks so much for joining us today and giving us an update what's going on. And let's plan to just stay connected on this because you're doing important work and we want to let the world know about it.
Likewise, my friend.
Thank you
for hosting us again today.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Great the conversation.
You bet. And we'll see you next time on the Boss Hole Chronicles. We'd like to thank our guests today on the Boss Hole Chronicles. And if you have a Boss Hole Chronicles story of your own, please email us at mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. Once again, mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. We'll see you again soon.